Hello, everyone. The book I'm presenting on today is called Communism in Germany: The Truth About the Communist Conspiracy on the Eve of the National Revolution by Adolf Ehrt. Adolf Ehrt was a German sociologist and was the son of a German consul in Saratov in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. His grandfather founded a trading house in Saratov. In 1914, however, the family business was confiscated by the Russian Empire as enemy assets and liquidated, whereupon the family emigrated to Berlin in 1915. From 1922 to 1927, he studied economics, political science, and social science at the University of Berlin. He was the author and co-author of a number of anti-communist books and brochures, and served as chairman of the General Association of German Anti-Communist Associations, which was led by Eberhard Tobert. And much of his focus as part of Nazi Germany's rise was on the discussion of communism and the threat that communist movement posed to Germany. The book Communism in Germany focuses on the struggle against communism within Germany prior to and at the end of the Weimar Republic. The focus of the book is on the actions taken by the Communist Party in Germany as communists were trying to take over the German government. Ehrt discusses throughout the book the rising threat the communists pose to Germany and its citizens and the preparation of the communists for an armed rising. According to Ehrt, there were really three phases that the communist revolutionary movement can be broken down into, occurring from 1918 to 1923, 1924 to 1929, and 1930 to 1933. This book focuses on the communist revolutionary movement through these phases until ultimately its defeat and the failure of the Communist Party to take over Germany. The thesis presented by Ehrt in the book is that the Communist Party was making an attempt to set up for an armed rising and ultimately looking to take over the German government, committing, as Ehrt saw it, treason against Germany, which was needed to be stopped for the sake of Germany as well as for the world. He viewed the Communist Party as a dangerous group that threatened Germany's stability and Germany's identity, and he wanted to ensure that Germans, as well as people in countries around the world, were aware of and understood the threat the Communist Party posed to Germany as well as to the rest of the world. Throughout the book, he discussed the tactics the Communist Party used in hopes of achieving their goals, and also how ultimately the Communist Party was not able to achieve its goals. The goal of this book, however, was to make people aware of the existence of the communist threat to Germany and to the globe, and he discussed and pushed the idea that the Nazi Party was less of a threat to the world than the Communist Party, and that the Nazi Party was the better option for the success of Germany. The book is organized into 6 sections, discussing different elements of communism and the Communist Party in Germany. The first section of the book was titled The System and History of Communism in Germany, and in this section, according to Ehrt, everything undertaken by the German Communist Party and its numberless affiliated organizations acquired sense and value exclusively insofar as it could serve as a preparation for the armed rising. So in other words, what Ehrt is saying is that the entire goal of the Communist Party in Germany, everything the German Communist Party did was with one particular goal in mind, and that was preparing for the moment when the armed rising would take place with the Communist Party attempting to gain power and take over Germany. The Communist Party believed that all means are justified that led to the desired end, including cheating, theft, lying, force, agitation, incitement, espionage, treason, even murder. Didn't matter what the action was, any of these actions were justified as long as they were done with the goal of achieving the desired end, again, taking over Germany. In addition to make things more troubling to Ehrt in Germany, the economic and financial position of the Weimar Republic became worse, owing to the inefficiency of its leaders and the rising inflation of currency and just the apparent downfall of the Weimar Republic, that the communists saw this as an opportunity to, again, gain power in Germany and overtake the government. So at the end of October 1923, we see an armed rising attempted in Hamburg, which at first did lead to the seizure of numerous police posts by terrorist groups of the Communist Party, and it was eventually quelled, but only after lengthy fighting. In addition, Ehrt placed blame for the risings on Russian Jews being the leading persons, which was a similar theme to the article I read for my last review, where they're connecting communist movements and the Bolshevist movement with Jews. As the communist threat continued to rise and more people were sympathizing with the Communist Party, the question then became what was going to be done to deal with this apparent threat. And the answer for many, including for Ehrt, appeared to be the Nazi Party. Ehrt addressed this point, stating that what the Republic had tolerated and furthered for 14 years would not be suffered by a National Socialist Germany for a single day. So in other words, while the Weimar Republic was threatened by the Communist Party and the actions it was taking, and they didn't seem to have an answer for the Communist Party, the Nazi Party was not going to deal with these kind of actions being taken by the Communist Party. The Nazi Party would quickly deal with the issue that the Communist Party presented. The second section of the book was titled Conspiracy, and in this section, Ehrt discusses another aspect of the Communist Party, which is the more underground actions that it took, the secretive actions it took to achieve its goals. As Ehrt points out, on one hand, German communist organizations were mass organizations for public propaganda and agitation, but the roots of the organization ran beneath kind of the surface of the official party into what Ehrt called the mire of the political, criminal, and literary underworld. So once again, Ehrt also in this section makes the case that Jews were to blame for the communist movement, stating that the teachers and leaders of communism in Germany also came directly from the school of the old Russian Jewish Revolution. Again, that connection of the Jews to the Bolshevist Revolution, and in this case, the Jews to the communist revolution in Germany, or communist movement in Germany, that comes from the, Bolshevik Revolution and the old, supposed Russian Jewish Revolution. Again, this type of attitude, like I said in my last review with the article I read, pinning the communist movement on Jews works to paint Jews as enemies of Germany, which establishes kind of the groundwork and the precedent for the events of the Holocaust. In addition, as more pressure was placed on the Communist Party, the more communist activity retreated to this, as I mentioned, underground activity and the illegal procedures the Communist Party engaged in. This was especially the case when Hitler had been appointed chancellor, as communists felt that the decisive moment was coming. They were going to have to make their move, and that the pressure was going to be on them even more so. Communist activity was becoming much more secretive and underground. Messages were being sent in cipher. They were written in code, and they stopped making use of the post office, the German post office. Instead, they organized their own party post to send, communication back and forth. So the more the Communist Party felt, again, that the end was coming, or the decisive moment was coming, they got even more secretive, more underground, more of this, type of action that Ehrt is discussing. In Section 3, Ehrt discusses the treasonous activity of the Communist Party. He points out the German Communist Party is the only one in Germany which is a foreign, alien, hostile group, due to the fact that its origin is in the Soviet Union. Its ideas come from a foreign country, the Soviet Union. And the fact that the German Communist Party has ties to a foreign nation that is viewed as hostile to Germany is viewed as treasonous. According to Ehrt, not a single copy of a newspaper, not a single pamphlet or book of pictures was produced, not a single theatrical performance or meeting, not a single meeting in the German Communist Party ever took place in which Germany was not insulted or betrayed, whereas the Soviet Union was being praised. So again, he's explicitly stating in this book that this Communist Party is treason, and that they are, in a sense, just bashing Germany and attacking Germany while praising a foreign nation that is viewed as being hostile to Germany. Section 4 is titled High Treason, and it takes an even further look at the treasonous or supposed treasonous activity of the communists at an even higher level, in which they were targeting groups like the army and the police in Germany. The most common form of subversive work within the army and police was the distribution of literature, illegal brochures, leaflets, so on and so forth, to push communist ideas and communist beliefs. In fact, Ehrt throws out the statistics that in 1932 there were 1,367 cases of the distribution of subversive literature among army and police known officially. Um, this literature was frequently being put into the entrances of police stations, letter boxes of policemen' homes, and so this idea being pushed forward by Ehrt that the Communist Party in Germany was trying to infiltrate, so to speak, the German army, the German police, which he would have said or seen as high treason by the Communist Party. The fifth section of the book is titled "The Armed Rising," and it finally deals with the attempt of the Communist Party to start the uprising to take control of Germany, which ultimately proved to be unsuccessful. The Communist Party had this belief that it had to do everything in its power to procure weapons, whether it be through theft, robbery, murder. Again, these things that Ehrt had already been discussing that the Communist Party was taking part in, and that the Communist Party in Germany was acting according to these principles. The first signal for the armed rising was February 27th, 1933, with the setting, of course, well-known setting of the Reichstag fire in Berlin, which occurred just about a month after Hitler's swearing in as Chancellor. And this Reichstag fire, which destroyed the dome of the building, destroyed the hall, the meeting hall of the Reichstag, was, as Ehrt put it in the book, glaringly illuminated the political situation in Germany like an enormous torch. Again, this is really the symbol that this armed rising is happening, and that the situation in Germany was not good, that the Communist Party was making its attempt to rise up. And the Communist Party appeared to have really one choice, which now was to fight, sink or swim, so to speak, either victory or defeat. And it ended up turning out that, of course, they did take to arms, but within a few days, the revolt was crushed, as as he states, that the Communist Party had underestimated the strength of the nationalist movement and failed in their armed rising. And finally, in the sixth section of the book, titled "The Task," Ehrt discusses how Germany felt that it was fighting against communism for not only itself and for its freedom and its future, but also that it was bearing arms, and he quotes, "for all Western Christian nations in a war against Bolshevism." So again, this is where it's trying to kind of push Nazism and paint it in a more favorable light, is saying that they weren't just fighting communism for themselves, but also for other nations, fighting this war against Bolshevism. The argument being that Germany was fighting for the benefit of the globe. And he painted this battle as one that was between faith and godlessness, between national consciousness and internationalism, between spirit, honor, and character on one side, being, of course, Germany, bestiality, dishonor, and crime on the other, being, of course, the Communist Party, that was fought on German soil. And it really sort of concluding this book by discussing Germany as almost heroic, crushing communism, crushing this communist world revolution, and thereby doing a favor for the rest of the world, protecting the rest of the world from communism, from Bolshevism. So this book really was interesting to read. I enjoyed reading this book. It provided a German perspective from the time frame, really a a primary source on how Germans viewed communism, the threat that communism posed to Germany. The time when the Nazi Party was rising to power, the Weimar Republic is collapsing, all the important kind of defining moment in Germany that we have been really looking at and discussing throughout this course, and really providing some insight into the role communism was really playing in Germany, what actions the Communist Party was taking, and really the viewpoint that Germans had of what was going on. One issue, of course, with the book that is clear to me is that, of course, the book being written by a German citizen in 1933 with the Nazi Party rising to power, clearly somebody who was supporting the Nazi Party, there is certainly bias in favor of Germany, in favor of the Nazi Party in the book. It's certainly, not something that is written with no bias. The bias is clearly there, but still an interesting read looking at this primary source regarding this topic. The book does use sources, they're cited, or it uses specific examples to back up, what he's saying, but the goal of the book, to me, clearly seems to be to discredit the Communist Party, paint them as being a major threat to Germany and to the rest of the world, and making the Nazi Party appear as, again, almost heroic because they're fighting against communism, stopping their uprising, and by doing that, doing a favor to the rest of the world, because the Communist Party also posed a threat to the rest of the world, not just to Germany. So, the book certainly relevant to the historiography of Nazi Germany, to the studying the conflict between the Nazi Party and Communist Party, providing some primary source insight into what people felt about that struggle. But of course, again, there certainly is bias in the book, and it is certainly favoring the Nazi Party and really trying to paint them in a more positive light. So while it is an interesting read, and certainly I thought well worth looking at, just certainly thinking about the bias that existed throughout reading this book was important to keep in mind. So if anyone has any questions, comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments on the discussion board, and I look forward to discussing this with you all. Thank you.